A little over 2 weeks ago, Apple had the keynote for WWDC, the Worldwide Developers Conference, where they announced a whole bunch of software that is coming to all of our devices this fall. If you're returning to my channel, you know that I typically do like Apple event recaps, but a few things got in the way of this one seeing the light of day. Wow, that rhymed. That was great. But anyway, I still wanted to talk to y'all about the things that are coming this fall, because if you know me, you know that I love software, because it is what makes our really cool hardware do the things that we think are really cool. Like, obviously you need the power and the physical technology in order to make the software happen, but you wouldn't have all the cool features without the software. They kind of come hand in hand. But I, myself, just got an iPhone 13 Pro last year, but as soon as iOS 16, for instance, comes out, I don't need to get the new device to have all the new features. Anyway, like I said, I still wanted to talk to y'all about what I'm excited for, so I decided I would recap iOS 16 and talk about all my favorite features that are coming this fall in just 16 minutes. So if you are interested in what I'm interested in, go and keep on watching. At this point, you've probably seen all of these updates across any of your social medias if you have anybody in your life who is remotely interested in technology, but I actually haven't like tweeted or put a lot of things on my Instagram stories about this yet, so if you don't follow any other tech heads aside from me, you might not know what's coming. So the very first thing that I wanted to talk about, because I think everybody will be really excited about this, is the updates to the lock screen. The lock screen just got an entire overhaul that is going to completely change the way that I use my device, and also the way that I have my phone laid out, not just on the lock screen, but in my phone as well. Okay, where do we even begin? First off, I'm gonna say just the design of the lock screen entirely has changed. So you can now do, which I want to know if these have to be portrait mode photos, if this can be any type of photo, but you can design your lock screen to have like the person, you can have like your subject in front of like the words and the date and the time and all that stuff. You can also have lock screens that rotate between pictures, so kind of how you can have that feature on your Apple Watch where every time you lift it, it's a new photo. You can have that too. They have animated lock screens, so there's like one with Earth where it's like half of the screen and then you unlock your screen and it moves the Earth into the full background of your home screen wallpaper. There's so many different ways you can edit within the like lock screen wallpaper editor, kind of how you can edit your Apple Watch faces, and that's what this is really going to be akin to. So if you have an Apple Watch or you've ever used an Apple Watch, you will be really familiar with this interface because it just looks really similar. You can do editing on like your photos, putting filters on there, all that kind of stuff. The next part that is mind-boggling to me that Apple is even letting us do this, so this is really crazy, is you can change the color and the font of the text on your lock screen. So like the time and the date, change the color to match your wallpaper, change a font to something you like better, whatever your little heart desires, you can do it. I'm still really blown away that they're even doing this, and I will be keeping the regular font just because I like it the best, but I'm really excited to be able to change it to match my lock screens. Ooh, it's gonna be so aesthetic. All the people who loved changing their app icons with iOS 14, I think it was, or iOS 15, are going to lose their marbles over the lock screen updates. Oh, and then the best freaking part is the widgets. These are just like complications that you have on your Apple Watch. So you can have the weather, your battery power, your calendar events, what's up next. You could probably have the podcast thing on there. There's so many different widgets that you can put on your lock screen. And when I said that this would change how I use my phone and how my whole phone is laid out, it's because that if you watched my like what's on my iPhone 13 Pro video, I have the weather widget right here on my lock screen. And I don't like how much room it takes up, but whatever. I'm just somebody who likes to be able to check the time and the weather. Like, just know it. I don't need to go into the app, whatever. So the fact that I can now put the weather on my lock screen, have a widget about it to see when it's going to rain, or just even the temperature, I don't need this anymore, and I can change around this. Same thing with the battery power. Oh, I don't have that on there, but I have like, this has some important information up at the top. That's my mom's location underneath my hand. But like, you can put your fitness activity monitor, your rings and all that stuff on your widgets on your lock screen. So a lot of the stuff that I like to see at just a glance, I know I'm going to use the widgets on the lock screen for. Speaking of the lock screen, there's a few other updates to that are not necessarily related to editing your lock screen. First is live activities. This I can see being like, so many apps are going to adapt this feature. Live activities is, instead of getting a series of notifications, let's say you're getting a delivery with Deliveroo or Uber Eats, for instance, instance. You normally get a notification saying like, okay, your delivery driver has accepted your order and they're on the way to the restaurant. Oh, they've got your order. It's being made now. They're on the way. Hey, they're at your house. And if you log into the app, you get like a little map, you get a little progress bar. Instead of that being a series of notifications that are just going to keep pushing to your phone, it's now going to be one little brick of notification that is just being live updated. Another feature that I really like this in is the sense of like watching sports, because I get ESPN updates when it's football season, American football season, go Dolphins. And I just always get little updates of, okay, so-and-so has the ball, it's moving this way, it's this many yards in this direction, whatever. And it can definitely get annoying, but I think it can also do a number on your battery. But most importantly, it's just annoying to have my phone just be going do whatever. So now it'll just have one little block that has the score, where the ball's at, the quarter that they're in, or, you know, whatever game you're watching. I think they use an example of baseball. But you'll just get that all in one live updated notification, which I think is so clever. I feel like there's instances that I'm not even thinking of that will be able to use this live activities feature. I'm doing this because I'm hoping in editing I'm putting it here. That's also why I'm sitting so far off to the left, so or the right to you guys, I don't know. Live activities are just super cool. I'm just really excited to see how they actually play out. The next section I wanted to talk about was messages, and I'm not like super jazzed about all the things that they announced, but I understand why they're cool. I just personally haven't been somebody who like had that on my Apple wish list. The 3 updates coming to iMessage is undo messages, edit messages, and the one that I'm most excited for, mark as unread. So edit messages, I think you get like a 10-minute window or something like that to edit a message. If you do edit a message, you'll get a little tag underneath the message, like the delivered tag, so the recipient knows that something was changed. The undo messages, I think it's 30 seconds or 10 seconds after you send it, you can undo send. And then mark as unread is just like an email. You can mark a message as unread. I know sometimes I'll open up a message and then be like, I can't respond to this now, but I will forget about it later. And then I just forget about it, or I set a reminder on my phone. It's just really clunky. By being able to open up a message and then mark it as unread right away, I know what the contents of the message are. I can think about what I need to respond to or whatever, but then the little notification doesn't go away. So I know that's gonna help me, but I also know a few people in my life who that is going to very much help. And I think it'll just help people respond to messages more and like not forget about them. Now I do wish that they had some sort of like follow-up feature. Like, this is jumping a little bit ahead, but that's something they announced for mail, is that they'll have like a follow-up or like you need to respond reminder type of thing. I wish they had that with messages, because the phone is smart enough to know the content of the message, so maybe it could also know that you need to respond to something, especially if it's like a question. So maybe that's a feature we see in the future, especially with mail kind of introducing that idea. So a girl can only hope. But the other thing that I'm really excited about with messages is something that I saw on the iOS 16 splash page, preview page, whatever, which by the way, they do this for all of the iOSs for every Apple event. I think it's mainly WWDC, but they always have like preview pages for the software that's coming out, so you can kind of like see more things, as well as there are things that they put on there that they don't talk about in the event because of the fact that they want to talk about their heavy hitters and they only have, you know, an hour and a half, 2 hours to do so. So something that I found on the iOS 16 preview page was beta transcribing audio messages. What this audio transcribing thing is when you get an audio message, just like how in your voicemails you can transcribe audio messages, it'll be like a similar thing, which is really cool, especially when you're in a moment where somebody sends you an audio message, but maybe you can't listen to it, but you want to be able to respond to this person. So I think the transcribing is cool. This also gives me hope that they're working on the audio message feature in iMessage, because I love audio messages. They're my favorite, but it's really annoying how you cannot scrub through audio messages. Now there is a little hack that you can do, which this is a pro tip from me, is that if you get an audio message from somebody, if you force press on it, it will open it up like an MP3 and then you can scrub through it, but it's kind of clunky. I'm not a mega fan of how the experience is. I don't think it's intentional that they did that. I think it's just something that has happened. I don't know how to explain it, but it definitely does not look like it's an intentional thing, because then it looks like an MP3 and it's just very, very weird. But at least you can scrub through audio messages sorta now, but I would like a way to be able to do it within the interface like you can on WhatsApp, and then play, pause, you know, whatever. You can still play and pause, but if you pause and then you leave and then you come back, or your phone locks, you gotta figure out where you were. So it's just very messy. I would like some updates with it, please, Apple, if you're watching this. Tim Cook, Craig Federighi, hi. I'd love an invite to the next WWDC, by the way. But if you're watching this, please update the audio messages. Okay, I still have a lot of things left on my list, but I'm just gonna rattle through a few things and just kind of like throw them at you and let you think about it. So here are some things that I am also excited for, but I'm not as excited for. I have one heavy hitter on this list, so we'll talk about that. But we have live translate using the camera in the Translate app, which is like my favorite feature of the Google Translate app. You can open up your camera. I actually talked about this in my What's on My iPhone video as well. You can open up, like for instance, Google Translate does this, but now Apple Translate will be able to do this. You open up Translate, you go to the camera, you go to some text on something, and then whatever language you're trying to translate it into, it will then put the print on top of these words in the language you're trying to see it in, which is amazing for when you're traveling. Because listen, I know a lot of French, but I cannot read the train kiosk ticket booth that well, and it saved my butt when I was in France. So I'm really excited that this is coming to the Translate app. I just wish that they would add Dutch. But anyway, moving on. Apple Pay Later is going to be very similar to like Klarna or Afterpay. You can break a payment into 4 payments. Don't know if there's going to be a credit check with that, so we'll be interested to see what that looks like in the future. This one I know is going to cause problems in the future. I feel like it is like playing with fire, but I know I'm not going to use it, so that's not my problem, I guess. But shared libraries within photos is a new feature that's coming. It feels a little risky, but also fun for people who are really connected. I know some big families have like group photo albums, or they are constantly sending photos in a group chat, so maybe having a shared library will be really nice. You can have a button in the camera app where you can send it to your personal library or the shared library, which once again, that feels a little risky, and I feel like it's going to put some people in some awkward situations. Another thing I wonder about that is whose iCloud account is being used, because that's a whole ass library. That's a lot of storage. So whose iCloud account is being used? Whose iCloud storage is being used? Do you have to then have a shared family account? So then that way you're using the shared family storage? There's kind of no answer to that. Also, can you not share the library with people who are not in your family? What if you want to share it with your uncle or your aunt and they're not in your shared family on iCloud? Yeah, I don't know. Any hoozle. Within live text, there's going to be a quick translate feature. So if, let's say I took a picture of something that was in pounds and I wanted to translate it to USD, because my phone is set to be like US is my main currency and like that I'm a US phone, it would then, I click on God, why can't I think? I click on the price tag and then it would automatically translate it into USD. That's just going to be really handy. Amazing. So I've got 3 things left. First of all, lifting images within a photo and turning into a sticker. They don't really have a word for it. They were bundling it in the live text category, but essentially you will be able to click on a subject in a photo or even a video. You hold it down and then it makes like an outline around the subject. And then you can drag that as like a sticker into like messages, for instance. And now you just have like a PNG of your subject. The guy in the keynote goes, "It seems like magic, but it's actually a really advanced machine learning, blah, 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 whatever." And I was like, no, you can just tell me it's magic. Like, I'll believe you. I was telling a friend about this, and when I was explaining to him, and then I showed him this section of the keynote, his face was just like, it's insane. It's insane. I don't need to know the secret sauce. You don't need to tell me that it's machine learning or an AI or whatever. It's magic. It's okay. I know you can do magic, Apple. You've done it before and you're doing it again, because it's just very cool. Once again, just a fun feature that I enjoy. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was personal safety and safety check. I think the main feature is called safety check, but essentially, and this kind of goes back to the quality of life updates, is like, obviously the stickers thing is really cool, and like the wallpapers and like the lock screen change is really cool. But a lot of these features are just like, oh, being able to mark a message as unread, that's like a thing I could use in my life on like a daily basis. Safety check is another quality of life update that is actually a big deal. So Apple partnered with a whole bunch of domestic violence like groups and organizations and women's wellness shelters and things like that. Essentially what they talked about was that one of the things that people say that can help them feel like they're reclaiming their security and their autonomy and they're taking control of whatever potentially violent or abusive situation that they're in is by being able to know who has access to what and remove themselves from that. So obviously people will share locations with partners or family friends, or, you know, maybe sign into a shared computer. But then unfortunately for people who are in some sort of abusive relationship, that power and permission that you've previously granted a person can now be used to hurt you. So with this feature called Safety Check, you can essentially see in a list who has access to what are you signed in on your Apple ID, who are you sharing locations with, who has your messages, all of that stuff and essentially relinquish that power in just like one kill switch. So you'll see who has access to what. You can see that list and you can go in there and change those permissions at any time, as well as just remove it from every single device. With Apple working with these like domestic violence support groups and charities and organizations, they've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that. And I think this is just going to be something that hopefully in a perfect world, nobody would ever have to use it. That would be amazing. But by this being something you can have access to from one singular device, so that way you don't have to go to that computer and remove yourself from that device, or whatever process you have to go through to get kind of your autonomy and your control back. So that was just something I wanted to highlight. Hopefully anybody watching this video will never have to use this feature, but now you know about it. And this is one of those things that makes me love software, because anybody can update their phone as long as it's one of the devices that can receive the update and get this really cool feature that can make a big impact in somebody's life. So there's that. And moving on from something a little bit more serious and heavier to something a little bit more exciting and silly, and that I'm just really excited for, is multi-stop routing within Apple Maps. I've been wanting this for years. I have Google Maps on this phone, and the only reason why I do is because they have multi-stop routing. And at one of my previous jobs, I had to go do deliveries of things, and it was really important to know what route was the best route, the most efficient route. I had not the whole day to make deliveries, and also you don't want to waste gas and whatever. It's just nice to be able to have multiple stops on your route. Now that's coming to Maps, thank freaking God. You can change it, you can move the little routes around. It will just make life so much easier for people who are traveling, or once again, if you're just having to make like a whole bunch of stops for a job that you have. Like, this is going to make things so much more efficient. So excited about the multi-stop routing. And after this, I will be deleting Google Maps from my phone for good. Aside from the fact that I'm an Apple stan, I just don't like the interface of it a lot. It's just slightly different. That just doesn't jive with me. It's just a personal preference thing. When I was watching the event and like doing my notes, as I do when I like make my event recaps, I'm normally watching the event and I'm like typing on my computer all the things I want to talk about. And it's the only thing in this whole document that is in all caps, and it says multi-stop routing on Maps, thank God. It's the little things that make me excited. As soon as the beta comes out, because I actually have a phone I can download the beta on, I have my iPhone XS, you bet your boots I will be testing out the beta, and I am so excited. Yeah, so that is iOS 16 in 16 minutes. Something tells me that's not gonna be completely accurate. Sorry, I'm like whispering like this. I'm recording in my house, and I think all of my roommates are home, so it makes me a little uncomfortable, I'm not gonna lie, but you do what you can for the job, for the love of the craft. Let me know what you're excited about when it comes to iOS 16, and if there's things I didn't talk about, because I know there's definitely things I didn't talk about. I'm looking at my list here of things that they announced in watchOS, but that are coming to iOS, so I'll save that for the next video. Before I go, thanks so much to all my top tier patrons. These lovely, beautiful people help support my channel. And if you want to be one of these people in particular who get their name tattooed on the end of all my videos, you can go to patreon.com/Annelies and check out all my tiers from $1 all the way up to 10. So if you like seeing scrapped videos or just updates of the channel or updates in my life, patreon.com/Annelies. Otherwise, that is going to be it for me. Stay beautiful, have a marvelous day, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Bye.